The big movie news, probably
of the year.
I would think nothing will trump it this year. Is Disney, who owns everything else in the world, bought Lucasfilm for a little over $4 billion. $4.05 billion. It's that 0.05 that really took it over the.
Trying to say my mom. The 0.05 is big.
Why do you think they had to go and do that? Right?
Yeah, I don't know what that 0.05 was. Maybe that 0.05 was for Howard the Duck or something. I don't know. But
or the crystal skull. I mean,
the big news on top of that is that there will be more Star Wars films beginning in 2015 and continuing every couple of years. There'll be a new Star Wars film if Disney has their way, and you know that was the crux of this deal.
Mm-hmm.
So that will happen. They say that they have a detailed treatment worked up in collaboration with Lucas for episodes 7, 8, and 9, essentially the next trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be a continuation of the first 6, not a reboot.
No, not a reboot.
Yeah.
Which Chris had mentioned, and when we were talking about things that should be remade, I remember Chris a couple of years ago said that it was something that he thought should be rebooted in the manner of Star Trek. And it was a very interesting point. And I do think that needs to be mentioned before we start this conversation, because it was something that I had never thought of. And I thought that was an interesting take on things, because Star Wars is more so than any other property, even and we'll get into this obviously in a couple of minutes, but Star Wars, there's something sacred about the original trilogy, if there is any. I mean, there is something about it. The idea of rebooting it would even be cause a lot of controversy. But I have no problems with there being an episode 7, given what we know, what's happened over the last week. All of this is a plus. Everything that's happened is a plus as far as the moving the series forward. It's just so odd. It never dawned on me that when I'm living in a retirement home, there'd be new Star Wars movies. I mean, I'm very serious. What I'm about to say is very controversial. I was hoping that it would die with him. I was really hoping, after everything he said, that these are only 6 movies. And I knew it was foolish to take him at his word, but I was hoping this series would die with him.
I thought he would feel that. I thought he felt the same way, actually.
Because I don't want Dean. I'm hoping this is wrapped up in 2030. I'm hoping, if I'm still alive at 60, that I'm hoping it's wrapped up. I don't like that I'm going to grow old with this now. I wouldn't have minded so much. But you must understand, I would not be doing this show today with you two gentlemen if it wasn't for the original Star Wars. I don't think it's not saying I liked movies before that, but when you go to see a movie and you have to wait in line for it, that was a new thing. The wait in a line that went around the block.
Yeah.
Okay, that's true. And then when you see this, I never saw anything like this before. I mean, we're talking, how many, 35 years ago? I mean, it's huge.
Let me ask the first point. Let me ask the first question, which is about George Lucas. Were you, from both of you, were you guys surprised that he sold out, and do you look upon it as selling out?
No. But I am surprised he sold it.
Yeah.
It was a surprising announcement, no question about it. I mean, it just came out of the blue, kind of, but it doesn't really surprise me. I think he has. I don't know. Maybe I'm happy that he realized that people want something more from the series. They don't want it to end on the note that it ended with the last 3. So, and
here's the plus. Here's the major plus. It's being written by someone else.
Yeah.
That's the deal. That's the big deal. It's going to be written by someone else, and
what was our main complaint about the last 3?
By someone else too. I mean, this is the thing. Let me put this in the perspective for you. In the 90s, after we were all excited. Oh, George Lucas will have complete creative control. I would say somewhere towards in June of '99, he realized this may not be the best thing. We're all excited now that he has no creative input really outside of this outline that's been in existence since maybe the late '70s, early '80s. Here's the thing. My first choice was okay, Jon Favreau or Joss Whedon or one of the Pixar guys is going to direct this. That's fine. I can live with that. I think that's beautiful. I would say Lucas's involvement in it, minimum involvement, is the best thing that could happen to the series at this point. But he has a unique place in motion picture history. He created one of the greatest things in movies. He also destroyed one of the greatest things in movies. You don't get that honor in one lifetime while you're alive. You don't get that.
Yeah.
But he did something that was very smart, and I was not aware of this at the time. It's not just the prequels. Forget the prequels ever existed, even if you can. I mean, a lot of people wish that, but he did something even bigger and more dangerous than that. He cheapened his brand. And what I mean by that is the books, the comics, and everything, they were fine when they started out. I won't lie to you. In my 20s, I thought there would be no greater living than being an author of Star Wars books. I would have been fine with that. I actually said at one time for many years, I would love to write these books. But the problem is, once you get into the prequels, you realize, oh my God, he really has just whored himself out. There's too many. You go into a bookstore today, there are too many books. There's too many Star Wars things. He cheapened it. He made what was special about it. What was the great thing about Star Wars is between 83 and 91, no one heard about it. You didn't see that many. I mean, of course, there's the Ewok TV movies or whatever and the animated series, but Star Wars died out by the late 80s. You didn't hear much about it. Then we were all excited by the Timothy Zahn trilogy, but he did something brilliant this week. His most brilliant move is he said, all these books and comics, they don't matter. When this episode 7 comes out, it's not going to have to... It is freed of these chains, this burden of this rigid mythology. It's actually free from all this extraneous stuff that's been going on for the last 20 years. He just basically said, the expanded universe is fan fiction. Paid fan fiction. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better gig. Basically, all those books and everything you see in the bookstore, the comics are all paid fan fiction. The best writing gig any writer could ever get. He just said that doesn't mean anything. I think that's the smartest thing he did. Everything he did to damage the brand, he just basically said, okay, this episode 7, Disney, it's in your hands. Please, you get a director, you get a writer, boom. It has a fresh start. We don't know the ending. We don't know the story. That's the problem with the prequels. Forget the story itself. It's just that he had to fill it. It was almost like a paint-by-numbers kind of filmmaking. Right. You have to make sure everything fills in to there's continuity. That's not filmmaking. That's not
you know
art.
what? I think that, first of all, I think that the strength of the best entries in the series, it's probably, in most part, the writing. I mean, the fact that Kasdan had a hand with writing Empire, right?
And Lee Brackett. And,
so I hope since they've structured another trilogy, and right now they're in the process of hiring writers, I'm sure there'd be tons of great writers that would be welcoming that opportunity. Maybe Kasdan, maybe Frank Darabont, or someone of that.
Those are guys I would definitely pick. Definitely. And I mean, it's just you're free of a lot of things. I don't think selling it to Disney has a great track record with Pixar and Marvel. Those are, if we're going to use those as no argument from me on what they've done there. I don't think Star Wars will be any different. I think Star Wars actually is the most uphill battle they've ever had. It's a tarnished brand. It is not. Don't worry, that opening weekend is going to be stellar. But it is. He did so. How should I say it? the first three movies, even in the third one, even though the third one, as you get older, you realize, wow, they were running out of ideas. They had to bring the Death Star back, and they had Muppets as the Viet Cong. You realize, but that's essentially
I
what it
missed that
is.
part.
I mean,
I missed what you just said. All I heard was Muppets as Viet Cong.
The Muppets is the Viet Cong, essentially.
Wow.
Ewoks is the VC, basically.
Oh, I see. Okay, all right.
Remember, this is his allegory for Vietnam. I think you have the chance to redeem this series, what he did. And I think that's all good, but it's Star Wars. I mean, the interesting thing is when you have Revenge of the Sith come out, you have Batman Begins opens a month later, and you see a filmmaker take an established property that's been around for a long time and do wonders with it.
That's what needs to happen here.
You need something like that. I don't think Nolan doesn't need to touch this. He doesn't need to prove anything here. But you need someone to come in and really give this thing a kick, jumpstart it to take it places it's never been before.
Well, let me ask you this, guys. You know, there's something about being a kid and waiting for the new Star Wars movie. Do you think the fact that we viewed the new trilogy as adults, that just that element in itself, the chemistry of that, changed our perception of the new trilogy? I mean, outside of the quality of the films, there's something different about the anxious anticipation of a new Star Wars when you're 10, 12 years old, as opposed to 30, you know?
Right.
Do you think essentially this is like, you know, preserving Star Wars for a younger the new generation, a young generation of kids? That's what they're selling to.
Yeah.
Which was Lucas's point about the new the last trilogy, that he said these were always movies for kids.
Well, I think it was Newsweek or Time brought out when the review of The Phantom Menace came out. There's a difference between the original movies made you feel like a kid. The new one made you realize it was a movie for kids. And that was an interesting.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
And that's a big difference. But let's take all that stuff. This is my thing. The Phantom Menace. Yeah, the pod race is great and all. It is actually at the time it was a really great thing. The problem is the movie, the pacing, the storytelling, the editing. It's a boring movie. Forget everything.
The dialogue is really poor. There's nothing funny in it.
You kind of wish they sold Natalie Portman and Keira Knightley as prostitutes in Tatooine. That would have made it a hell of a lot more interesting.
The big problem with the last three was that there was nothing funny in it. That there was, I mean, those first three movies have a lot of humor in them.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right.
That's what helps endear those movies to us. But the last three were just completely humorless. And I think it was beyond Lucas's ability and by the way, the humor that was injected in those movies was really from the screenwriters that were not Lucas. You know, he just did the story, and the screenwriters were the guys that actually put the humor into it.
They had to go behind his back to do a lot of the humor.
So he's not really the funniest guy around, you know. So that's the biggest thing about this announcement is that he's letting it go. He's letting it go to people. I mean, if they're chosen correctly, they will imbue the movies with a new energy that those films didn't have. That's why this is like a really, really good news.
It's great.
I mean, theoretically, you know, wouldn't it be great to see Joss Whedon? It would be. I'm really pulling for Joss Whedon to do it, but or at least to write it, maybe not to direct it. But wouldn't it be great to have Joss Whedon and Lawrence Kasdan working on it? That way, Kasdan could pull the best things out of each other.
Yeah.
You know, and just like, you know, what was interesting about Empire Strikes Back was that you had Kasdan on it, yes, but you also had an old hat like Lee Brackett on it.
Yeah.
You know, who had written old westerns and stuff like that. So it'd be great to like make Kasdan now in the Lee Brackett role, and then have somebody like Joss Whedon come in. I think that's just like a magical combination.
Didn't Lee Brackett do Altman work as well? Like The Long Goodbye? Did he write that?
Well, it's a she. And,
she was Charles Brackett's wife, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Right. And I don't know that she did Long Goodbye, but I think she's most famous for doing Rio Bravo.
I think she did. I am going to look, or this is going to kill me if I don't. I pride myself in my Altman knowledge.
I think the thing that is surprising, though, is I never thought Lucas would give this up.
Yes, she did.
I never thought this is like if Steve Jobs had lived and he had sold Apple.
Well, I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
Lucas knows that he's not going to live forever, and Lucas wants to ensure that the Star Wars universe will live on beyond him. So we know that he had plans for this months and months ago when he hired Kathleen Kennedy to head up his company.
Yeah.
That he was in that stage of planning. Where can I find a home for Star Wars? I'm pleased with the fact that he's relinquishing the control that he once had. It opens up a whole wealth of great possibilities.
Yes.
I think that the films have potential, but I think that no matter who they announce as director, as actors in the project, a ton of backlash. I mean, they're not going to, no matter who they choose, they're not going to be able to stop people saying, "Oh my God, this is going to be terrible."
Yeah, of course.
Oh yeah.
That being said,
that's going to happen. So
the guessing games have begun.
But this is the
whoever
thing.
takes the job is going to get a lot of brickbats, and that's exactly, I think, the reason why Christopher Nolan doesn't want to do it. Like, I think he's been pretty.
I don't think he has anything to prove, though.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it would be, I don't think he's a good match for the series anyway. I think he's too dark, and he's also very humorless too. So we want fun back in the series. Fun, like adult fun that's good for kids too, but is not talking down to kids like they're really babies.
So how about Brad Bird?
I think Brad Bird. I think it's going to be
great choice.
I mean, Brad Bird was the other choice. I had Jon Favreau and Brad Bird. I didn't think Joss immediately. Joss doesn't come to mind because he is so immersed in the Avengers and the sequel to the Avengers. He didn't come to mind first. I did. Now there is talk that Brad Bird and what is the guy from Lost and Prometheus, Damon Lindelof?
Oh, don't get him. He's too.
No, it might be.
Bad.
Here's the thing. Here's the crazy rumor that started less than 24 hours after this. There's a project at Disney called 1952. And Brad Bird is attached to direct, and Damon is the writer. And this is supposedly a big tentpole movie, and I don't know what it's about, but this might actually be Episode 7. It might already. They've been working on this supposedly a while.
It might be a dummy title, like
Blue Harvest was for Return of the Jedi. That's what the whole. Okay, my thing is this though. I have no problem with this. I've pissed off so many people talking about this since it's been announced. I mean, I've really turned off everybody in my household and at work and everything. But here's my thing. I never thought Lucas would. I thought this was really basically this is what I thought would happen. The adopted children spend all the money. They have to make Episode 7 to just get out of bankruptcy court. But it never dawned on me he would sell. It was like he really was in many ways like his protege, Steve Jobs, who he sold Pixar to. I never thought if Steve Jobs had lived that he would sell Apple. That never, it was just one of those things you thought, okay. I never thought Lucas would sell. It just seemed like one of those things that it would go to the grave with him. And part of me was like, that would be great, wonderful.
Well, it's encouraging that it's not a desperation move.
No, it's not. But there is.
I mean, he donated all the money to charity, right?
No, I think he gave the money to charity, and that's what I like about Lucas. His heart has always been in the right place with education and charity. There is this rumor though that they started at CNBC that he did this now because of the tax hikes next year. That was an interesting thing that that's gotten out. I don't know if I believe that, because even if the tax hike went out, George is richer than all of Hollywood combined. So
well, whether it was now or later, I mean, we know that this is something, a big move that he was planning to do, that he wanted to do.
He talked to Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher about this over the summer. He met with, I think in August, he met with them and told them what was going on. Now, whether any of the original actors, I know Billy D. Williams is probably waiting by the phone right now, but whether and Anthony Daniels, of course, but
I'm sure all of them are, except for Harrison Ford.
It's an you sort of, it would be nice if they do have them as in cameos or something in that first film.
I think that's essential.
Yeah, you have to. I don't think you can do it. You do need something like that.
Okay.
It's given movie, as someone said, it's given movie bloggers 10 years of life. You know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's true. So here's the guessing game that's going on. We've already mentioned a couple of directors. I mean, there's the Joss Whedons, the Matt Reeves and Brad Birds and all that kind of stuff that's being floated around for directors. Do you think that they'll go with a younger generation and not an older generation director? First of all,
are you thinking Joe Johnston?
Yeah.
Well,
the obvious would be a Spielberg.
I don't think Spielberg was.
I don't think they're going to go for Spielberg, or
I'm sure
I don't think Spielberg would want to do it. You know,
he don't want to do it. He don't care about that. He doesn't have anything left to prove in that department.
If Lucas asked him to, I bet.
Oh, if Lucas said, "Oh, Steve, I want you to do episode 7," I think Steven Spielberg would do it in a heartbeat. But I think
they're going for younger blood, younger generation.
Well, how much younger are you thinking? Are you thinking Edgar Wright? That is a name that's come up.
Edgar Wright, Duncan Jones.
Oh, I don't think Duncan Jones would do it. He's too sophisticated for Star Wars.
Yeah, but I think they're going to have to get somebody. Well, first of all, two things is that they're really going to have to get somebody to direct it, but not write it. In other words, whoever directs it has to be working from a script that's written by somebody else. I think that's one of the keys. I think that's one of the keys to the thing. You don't want to feel like there's somebody's voice that's too invested in the project. You know what I'm saying?
Who would be the logical choice to do this film? Not David Lynch. I would love to see David Lynch in Return of the Jedi, though. But who would be the logical choice? Does he work that Industrial Light and Magic when they're making Return of the Jedi? Who would be if you're not thinking young, who would it be?
Well, again, it has to do with tone, and David Fincher, if it's not a dark property to begin with, wouldn't be right for it, right?
No, and again, he's not funny.
Phantom Menace. I would, if I was Lucas, I would say, "Where's this Fincher kid? Well, let's get him." You see, this is the thing that Lucas had in the 90s. This is the thing that irks me. You had all these. The prequel trilogy was supposed to be dark. It's dark in a kind of if we murdered all the Care Bears in one movie kind of way. It's not a dark movie like we were led to believe growing up. They're not a dark. It's his idea. Obviously, Lucas's idea of dark and everyone else's is completely different.
Yes.
I do think. Once again, I say this is uncharted territory. We don't know what the story is, thankfully. Whoever makes this movie and whoever makes the third film isn't bogged down by, how should we say it, because it's really uncharted territory. We don't know where this is going. So I think
I think one of the things, let me just get back to the director's thing. You know, one of the interesting things about Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi was that Lucas picked two sort of journeyman directors that weren't known for their action movies or anything like that. They were just good journeyman directors, and they did an incredible job for the most part.
Yeah,
especially Irvin Kershner. who had never done a space movie, never done a big action movie, anything. You know, he was just a good journeyman director that could take directions and transform the screenplay into reality. And same thing with Richard Loncraine too.
Richard Marquand.
Richard Marquand. Sorry, I get mixed up all the time.
I hear you.
But that, you know, what would be interesting is if they didn't go the route of, like, picking the hot directors, you know, all these directors that we're naming, Whedon, Bird, Jones, all those hot directors that, and instead went back to that route and picked somebody really surprising like Michael Apted or even Sam Mendes or something like that, you know.
That's what you're talking about doing.
Bond. You're like Barbara Broccoli all of a sudden. I mean,
well, no, but I mean, the reason that they get those guys to do those Bond movies is because they are craftsmen.
They are,
but they are also like they're just. You know, their voice is sort of only there for the service of the story alone, and they're not injecting a lot of overt personality into the film.
The last thing that Lucas wanted was an auteur. I mean, he wanted somebody that would work to be on the same page as him.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that's what they need to find.
A less diplomatic way of saying it would be somebody that he could boss around.
Yeah, but he's not going to have. Hopefully, that won't be the case this time.
Right.
That's what
but we don't. I don't think we want that's why, you know, a censure or something like that would be wrong for this.
Oh, I agree. I mean,
it's too much. His voice is too strong.
No, I agree. I agree.
Overwhelm the film.
But I think a Jon Favreau or a Brad Bird or an Andrew Stanton, is that the other Pixar guy I'm thinking of?
Oh yeah, if they get after John Carter. I know.
I realize that name is mud. But there are directors out there. Some of the names I thought were very interesting on the Hollywood Reporter list that you posted on Twitter, Jamie, on our site for Twitter. I would like to say something else though. God, I'm gonna get shot for this. I hope I do, so I don't have to pay some more bills. But I hope I do get shot for this. Actually, in the period of Star Wars, since Star Wars came out, we have seen in books and movies, two really great ideas come out. In books, I would say Harry Potter definitely owes a lot to Star Wars in one sense, but also The Matrix. The Matrix so much that it stole the Phantom Menace's thunder a month before its release.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm going to say is as much as I love some of these comic book movies that have been rebooted and properties and everything, I am dismayed for a little bit that we're still, as much as Star Wars influenced me, and God knows it. We'd be a lot richer if it didn't. We'd be a hell of a lot richer if it didn't growing up. We didn't spend all that money on action figures and books. But I would like to see something like a Matrix or a Harry. I would like to see more things influence, more original properties come out instead of just rebooting or regenerating. I mean, as much as I love the James Bond with Daniel Craig,
what you're bemoaning is that we're going back to the well again.
Yeah, and part of me, don't get me wrong, I am very excited by this news. But there's another part of me that says, well, can we try to do something like the Wachowskis really, I think, hit it out of the park, even maybe not financially, but at least creatively with taking Cloud Atlas and doing something with it. I love all the, I love the Marvel movies. I love the Nolan Batman movies. I can't get enough of them. But as much as I like them, or J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, wouldn't it be? I just would like to see another original big franchise created.
Lucas created his new mythology with Star Wars.
Yes, he did.
And
I realize, and I know
hard to replicate.
It is very hard to replicate, but I think Harry Potter and The Matrix and the other series that's come about that I really like is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo books. That's another original
Well, it hasn't really. It's not really a. Well, I guess it was in Sweden.
Yeah, not here. No, they don't like it here. No, they didn't. I liked it, but who cares?
So here's the big game going on outside of who will direct. Is who could play these iconic roles? So they asked several people in the business to cast these parts.
Well, wouldn't they be new characters? They're offspring, really, wouldn't it?
Here's what it says.
Yeah, exactly.
According to Kathleen Kennedy, meetings are already underway with possible writers for the forthcoming films, which will reportedly be based on the characters that were central to the second trilogy, Luke, Leia, and Han Solo.
Oh, God. It's a reboot, isn't it?
No, it's not a reboot. I mean, if it's a new trilogy, it's not a reboot. But
okay.
here's the problem, and this is what makes it odd. If we're continuing Luke, Leia, and Han Solo's story from Return of the Jedi, that means that this isn't young Hollywood. This is older Hollywood actors, and it's hard to believe they'll start a new franchise on that. So they'll probably fudge that, I would think, the age stuff.
Oh,
right?
God. This is...
Well, I mean, what are we talking about? We're talking about having the original actors come back and play their roles, and then, but I mean, we don't know how this story is going to go, so it's difficult to cast it.
Oh my God, they're going to recast Luke, Leia, and Han, aren't they?
If they're based on the characters that were central to the second trilogy, then the movie's about Luke, Leia, and Han Solo.
So they have to recast the actors.
Oh my God, this is. Oh, we get into this is okay, and you guys can crucify me for this. I thought one of the biggest problems with the prequel trilogy is that you started Anakin out too young. I didn't know he was going to start out as a goddamn Toys R Us kid. I had no idea.
Yeah.
It never dawned. I thought he was when we were. One of the fun things about this was the casting. With my friends and the people I work with and everything at the time, it was Kenneth Branagh was going to play Obi-Wan and Daniel Day-Lewis was going to play the Emperor, things of that nature. That's
right.
where we were at. So you're going to actually, but the problem was that you had Jake Lloyd and Hayden Christensen play the same character. Neither one of them, I would say, not exactly. These are guys that would be begging for change on Hollywood Boulevard. In years to come.
Even if you pick up those characters right after Jedi, you're talking about actors that would be in their late 30s, early 40s, or something, which is older than typical actors that you cast in a new franchise. I mean, they go younger. So I'm thinking that they will probably fudge the ages.
Well, they have to. I mean,
yeah.
Well, they'll go early 30s, I think.
Here's some of the opinions of people in the industry.
Oh my God.
Here's what one film director says. He says, or she says, I can see Rooney Mara as Princess Leia and Emil Hirsch as Luke Skywalker.
Who's Han Solo? James Franco.
Every single person said Ryan Gosling for Han Solo.
Ryan Gosling.
I go with that.
I agree.
Okay, can I purchase tickets?
That's the one that I was going to say right off the top of my head.
Can I purchase tickets for this? Ryan Gosling's Han Solo, that's genius. I didn't think of that just because he's so cool. I think he's cooler than Han Solo. But, oh, God. Rooney Mara?
I think those are all great choices. Rooney Mara is a good choice,
Rooney Mara as Princess Leia?
I don't know about Emil Hirsch completely. I'm not completely sold on that.
But that's all right. I could see that, or Justin Timberlake as Luke Skywalker. But
that might be a good choice.
But wait,
too.
Rooney Mara as Princess Leia. Can someone Photoshop that for me right now? So I can put that on my wall. Oh my God,
There's
awesome.
also Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh my God.
She's too young.
No,
she's like 22.
I want this to happen. Don't curse it.
But she's like 23 or something. She's too young.
Okay.
Gotta be early 30s.
Okay, let's just get the elephant
Maybe even Rooney Mara is too
Zoe
young.
Deschanel as Princess Leia. She's 32, okay? There, does that make you happy?
That's right.
Well, Zoe Deschanel, yeah, that'd be cool.
She would have been a better Lois Lane, but that's just me.
Yes, she would have been. I think, yeah, that's true.
Oh, well, that's all I can find for.
Okay,
well,
all right.
And that's an article that I haven't seen repeated anywhere, that they're continuing those characters. But if it's a continuation of the saga, then it would make sense that those characters are definitely involved.
Yeah, it would make sense, but wow, oh man, that's.
I think whatever happens, Luke Skywalker is going to be actually the most difficult role to recast. I think you're going to have to get a weird combination of kind of like a sort of, I don't know, mature innocence that's going to be difficult to get.
All right, I got an idea. If you're really this is the thing though. This is already, if you're gonna. The thing to do, I would at least say like 5-10 years after Return of the Jedi, because that just seems because there's a 20-year gap in between Sith and A New Hope, in his timeline. It's just an idea, but it's their thing, so it feels kind of like a reboot, obviously, with you're casting different actors. I'm now very curious what he has in store and what these people are going to make. It's exciting. I won't lie to you. It's very exciting. This is never dawned on me, just because I didn't think that he was so adamant that it was about the rise and fall of Anakin Skywalker when he was making the prequels. That he said, there's not going to be a 7, 8, 9. But now, since we know there's going to be a 7, 8, 9 and spin-offs of those, this is exciting. This is giving us. We have a job for 10 years.
Well, I guarantee you that pretty soon we'll probably know who's brought on to write.
Yeah.
And probably in the next year we'll know who, some of the.
Let me ask you guys a question,
though.
Let me ask you guys a question, though, because now we live in this age of social media. We're all interconnected and everything. It's going to be hard to keep the plot points in this locked down.
It's true. It's going to be like CIA stuff trying to keep this thing
even with
secret.
the prequels, you still had stuff getting out there, and the problem with the prequels was as time went on, I think everyone's interest and patience just gave way because people were disappointed. I think for the most part.
Yeah.
It was just Terrence Malick had been going on the same period of time, and the Thin Red Line he's shown such, how should I say it, he's come so long as a filmmaker, and George Lucas makes The Phantom Menace. It's like, oh my God, it's 1977 still.
Yeah, and even in terms of press scrutiny, I mean, we've seen more pictures of Terrence Malick in the past year than we've ever seen throughout his 40-year career.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's photographed all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He used to be Howard Hughes.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's a great point. I think it bodes well, obviously, for the future of the franchise. It'll be very interesting to see how a new Star Wars movie plays out and Peter Jackson's going to run I think, to a similar problem as Lucas. He's going to be under incredible scrutiny with this Hobbit trilogy, which is a prequel, which is the ultimate prequel of prequels. And, his name has been floated about, too, to direct this.
Mm-hmm. Again, the wrong choice.
Oh, it's not a good choice. I think Guillermo del Toro would be a fascinating choice.
I think these guys are too wrapped up in their own thing. We don't want it. We don't want it to be a David Lynch version of Star Wars, a Del Toro version of Star Wars. It's got to have this sense of neutrality about it.
I want a Woody Allen Star Wars. I want that guy to be as neurotic. I want Luke to be as neurotic as possible. Oh my God! I almost slept with my sister.
It's gonna get into parody if it.
No, you're right. I mean, you have to have someone who, as you said, you guys brought up a good journeyman directors, like really people that you can rely on to, bring this home.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right.
Like a young Philip Noyce. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. That's a great Philip Noyce or
Peter
Roger
Weir is going to come in and direct it.
Roger Spottiswoode. Why couldn't he work? He'd be good. Did he do a Bond film too? I mean, any of those Bond directors might.
Tomorrow Never
might
Dies.
Work. Yeah, any of those Bond directors might work.